We have already covered what biodiversity is all about. We know that India is very much rich in biodiversity. This slide just consists of all the species I have already covered in the previous part, but I'll just go through that what are the species which are available. Okay, first of all, India is among the top 10 countries which are rich in biodiversity. Okay, then it is home to 350 mammals. This also I have already told. There are total 1200 species of bird, 453 species of reptile, 45,000 plant species. India is a home to 50,000 known species of insect. That includes 13,000 butterflies and moth. And it is still, you all know, unidentified. There are many unnamed species that still exist, and even those are having a higher count. Now, more than 18% of the Indian plants are endemic to the country and they are found nowhere else. Means in India, there are certain 18 plants that only exist to a particular region which exists in India only. No other parts of the world they find these type of plants. There are 27 indigenous breeds of cattle, 40 breeds of sheep, different breeds of sheep, 22 breeds of goat, and 8 breeds of buffalo. Now, if we talk about amphibians, there are 62% of amphibians which are found in India. They are unique. Okay, there are different flowering plants, there are different insect, marine worms, mayflies, freshwater sponges, many different types of species which are available in India. And it is, you all know, a very important factor, sometimes you can say proud factor, and this proud factor will continue to remain proud factor only when we maintain or protect these species. If we will not protect these species, so that time is, not very far when India will be removed from the category of the mega diversity region. So it is, a alarm, you can say, or a important point which should be understood by everyone, that whatever achievements we are having, whatever rich biodiversity we are having, we should protect that, and we should not let that tag to be taken away from us. That will be very much hurting if India will lose this place. If India loses the place of 4 biodiversity regions, or which is included in mega diversity region, so it's very important that care should be taken of. The last topic of chapter number 3 is conservation of biodiversity, objects, and various laws. So, over here we will be learning what are different objects of the biodiversity and what are its various law. Conservation techniques in short. So, the objects, as per the Ministry of the Environment, Forest, and Government of India, they are as follows. First one is to increase the public awareness through media, through government agencies, through NGOs, in order to protect biodiversity. This is a medium. Public awareness is the most important medium, I can say. Second is to implement strict restrictions and export of rare plants and animals. Over here, strict action should be taken. Exporting of plants and animals who are already rare should be prohibited. Then preservation of all varieties of the old and the new flora, fauna, and microbes. The varieties which are the newest one, you can say, or the oldest one, whatever it is, a gift which includes in India, it should be preserved. Natural habitat should be protected, and all the critically endangered species, rare species, should be protected. Pollution should be reduced, because pollution will be reduced, there will be no harm to the habitat over there. Ecological balance should be maintained it also plays a very important role. And at last will be utilizing the natural resources in a sustainable way. Different techniques should be there, watershed management should be used, water protection should be there, sustainable development should be there, so that all the aspects which I have mentioned right now should be covered in a very prominent way. So over here there are two very much important methods for conserving the biodiversity. First one is in situ conservation strategy, and second one is ex situ conservation strategy. Now in situ conservation strategy, you can say it is also called as on-site conservation technique. Now in this technique, what is happening, the protection or conservation of the species is taken place in their natural habitat only. Means in the area where this species reside or where this species exist, measures are taken to protect or conserve them in that area only. So you can say it is the cheapest way, where no extra amount is utilized for protection. Very convenient for the for the environment. Yeah? And what is happening over here, the resources can also be conserved properly, and maintenance could also be done properly. Why? Because everything is done within the environment, no extra measures needs to be taken, proper care should be there. So over here we can use the concept of protected areas, where human intervention or human existence should not be there, less amount of human will be there. When these type of areas are protected, maintenance of the biological diversity is very easy. Okay, then no deforestation will take place. Example can be national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, then world conservation monitoring centers. Okay. So all these are the measures over where less human interaction is there, less human disturbance is there. So the wildlife is also maintained. They are living a carefree and they are in a safe environment. So over there, nurturing is done very easily. You all know 89 parks, national parks are there, 492 wildlife sanctuaries are there. Out of that, India is having 581 protected area. It is a very good thing. Total there are 37,000 protected areas which are around the world. Out of that, 581 are the protected areas, and in that 581 I have mentioned earlier 89 national parks and 492 wildlife sanctuaries are there. So this is a good establishment for India. The Jim Corbett National Park, it was the first national park which was established in India. So protected areas is also a very good example. Over here no disturbance is there of the humans, so everything can be maintained properly. Biosphere reserves, it is also a special category of areas of, you can say, coastal environments, where what is happening over here, people are the integral component. They are taking care. Natural biomes are used. These are you can say a biological communities. So it also plays a very important role to maintain the natural environment, and the protected areas, they remain undisturbed over here. So this was in situ conservation. Next is ex situ conservation. You can say it is the exact opposite. In situ, what we were doing, we were conserving the species or protecting them in the environment in which they reside. But ex situ, you can say it is not on site. Over here, what is happening, when they notice that a particular species is on the verge of extinction, or if they are threatened, so what they are doing, they are taking these plants and animals out of their natural habitat and they are placing it in a safer environment. You can say artificial environment which looks like their habitat, so that the plants and animals, they can be grown and nurtured or taken proper care over there, so that the risk of them being on the verge of extinction reduce and they can grow properly. This requires lot of money, because we have to create everything artificially. Okay, artificial setups need to be done, then the medicines and whatever requirement is there for their nourishment, all those things they are brought. Transportation cost is there, electricity cost, many things are there. But at last what matters, that we are we are conserving these important species. Okay, examples can be botanical garden, zoo, conservation stands, then DNA bank. All these are the example of the XC2 conservation techniques. Okay, so this was included in XC2 conservation technique. Captive breeding is there, gene bank is there, aquariums, fertilization techniques are there. Many examples are there where proper care of the habitat which are on the verge of extinction is taken place. So this was ex situ conservation. So first we studied the objectives, then we studied the two categories. First is in situ and ex situ. These techniques, they are used for conserving the plants and species. And the last part which we are going to study is the laws. When we studied everything, biodiversity, advantages, disadvantages, losses, threats, we should know what acts are available for this. Different laws are there. What are these different laws? There are the first law. I have not mentioned over here laws, all the laws. The ones, 2 or 3 I have mentioned, but there exist many laws. First, we can say the Biological Diversity Act 2002. This was India's attempt to realize the objectives. Okay, the objectives of protecting our own resources. This was the first step, you can say, for realizing the responsibility. And this objective, they first established by the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity in 1992. India established it in 2002. Okay, then the second is the National Environment Policy 2006, Biological Diversity Rules 2004, then National Biodiversity Action Plan 2008. If we talk about Biological Diversity Act 2002, this is the act of the Parliament of India for preserving the biological diversity in India. Okay, where sharing of benefits is done, and also taking care that all the traditional resources and knowledge is equally shared among everyone, so we can do conservation on a global level. Then next is National Biodiversity Authority, which is based in Chennai. Okay, one more is there, State Biodiversity Board. Now the National Biodiversity Authority, it is headquartered in Chennai. It is under the Ministry of Environment. Okay, it was established in 2003. State Biodiversity Board is called as SBB. This includes 29 states. Okay, and 31,574 biological management committees are included in it. So these are different laws, which the main motive of these laws is just to protect the species and to share the knowledge globally also, or to all parts of the India, so that whatever resources we are having, we can conserve it. So this was all about chapter number 3. Thank you.